stretch.
Mogul against the running well in the blue and orange, closing very strongly, and it is Mogul in the blue and orange who's taken it up. But as they race towards the line, Mogul safely clear, and Anthony Van Dyke still holding on the moment. Two in second position, Stradivarius. Anthony Van Dyke still, Stradivarius chases him. They come towards the line, Anthony Van Dyke narrowly.
Courtland Simmons with you here at the CS Racing Report with an early look at the Arc de Triomphe and who the top contenders may or may not be for the Classic at Longchamp Racecourse. Let's kick it off with how one would evaluate Tarnawa's performance in the Prevu. Very impressive 3-length winner for trainer Dermot Weld. She's 16-1 in the ARC marketplace. She could very well run against fillies and mares that same ARC weekend in the Prix del Opera. So that's a possibility for trainer Dermot Weld, who also has Search for a Song, the Irish St. Leger winner. So it could be very well that he couples those horses in the ARC or the Prix del Opera, or he splits those two outstanding individuals. Tarnawa was very impressive, 9th in the early going, moved to 8th to 6th, and then with 3 furlongs out, kicked clear from her rivals to win by 3 lengths. And is that the kind of acceleration, the Trev, Zarkova, enable type of acceleration that most of you or some of you may think can contend at the Arc de Triomphe or be very much at the top level in the Prix del Opera? That's to be determined in the future, in the near future, with Tarnawa 16-1 in the marketplace for the Arc. Anthony Van Dyke, 0 for 7 since winning the 2019 Epsom Derby. Defeats Cup legend Stradivarius by a long neck, maybe even a short half length. In the Pre-Foy at Longchamp, 12 furlongs. In this race, it was a canter in the beginning. He led throughout Anthony Van Dyke. And then with about 600 meters to go, he was surrounded by Stradivarius and the herd as though he had committed a crime. And he was confronted by all those horses. And he never really was headed. Maybe if he was by Stradivarius very briefly, as he kicked into another gear, made that separation that in the end made the difference between silver and gold in this race. Stradivarius, while tracking in second, was driven in the stretch by Frankie Dettori, came back on with a late bid to close for second and to cut the deficit that Anthony Van Dyke had created after shaking off his rivals in the stretch. A good performance by Anthony Van Dyke, but does it put him far enough forward to be a viable ARC contender? A lot of folks would believe that his chances are a little better with the speeds in there, potentially Gayef and the others, that it would be better utilized if he's in a cat and mouse semi-stalking or a full-out stalking position versus trying to go wire to wire. I think that, in a lot of people's minds, is going to be the best deal or best approach for Anthony Van Dyke going 12 furlongs. And even then, some people doubt whether he can be a contender in the ARC. And that's, of course, I'd love to hear the commentary from that in regards to him. On that, in regards to him, he's 33-1, right in the middle between 30 and 35-1, with a group of horses in the marketplace for the Arc de Triomphe. Anthony Van Dyke for trainer Aidan O'Brien, ridden by Michael Barzalone on that race. And then we move to the 3-year-olds in what is usually a mid-season race, the Grand Prix de Paris. Of course, it's now, of course, in a different spot given the rescheduling. And Mogul finally justified his high asking or his high purchase price with an emphatic 2.5-length victory in this race. Remember, he was smoked by his stablemate Serpentine. They too, along with Anthony Van Dyke, are out of the Aidan O'Brien barn. In the Epsom Derby, a lot of horses, himself included in the minds of many, could be excused. Did not run as well in the Great Voltaire Stakes, a race in which, like a lot of races, you got jockeys in 2 separate races, a herd of riders on one part of the racetrack and another set of jockeys on the other side. And Mogul just didn't punch as hard or make an impact on the winning pile driver that day. So a lot of people were wondering how good he was. He was very good in this race, as Pierre-Charles Boudot gave him a great ride. He trailed in 8th, moved forward to 7th. And then somewhere in there, with about 3.5 furlongs to go, he shot through like a cannon on the rail, tipped out beautifully to smoke this field by, as I aforementioned, 2.5 lengths. A very, very nice performance. But Aidan O'Brien said in the post-race that the Arc de Triomphe is not a definite, despite his nice run over the Arc surface at 12 furlongs. He is being possibly pointed for the Caulfield Cup and Cox Plate in Australia, a region in which Tiger Moth, another horse that I thought would be a viable ARC contender off his runner-up finish in the Irish Derby and a nice run in winning a group stake afterwards to go over to the Gold Coast. The Caulfield Cup, Tiger Moth is being pointed for the Melbourne Cup, Mogul for the Caulfield Cup, and the aforementioned Cox Plate possibly. An audible could be called that he might bypass one of those in order to couple up with his stablemate in Melbourne for the Cup. But Mogul, not a definite. Even at 12-1 for the Arc de Triomphe, he is also paired with, as you can see in the odds, with Gayeth at 12-1 at those odds. Meantime, Serpentine, who was fourth to his stablemate, after winning the Epsom Derby in his first run, had a good trip. 3 wide, fourth in the early going under Christophe Suleiman, and he was clear, got a good run. When asked to improve his stride, he just wasn't able to keep up with the others. Ran a good race, and Aidan O'Brien believes, and I put a question mark around that performance initially as to whether it's arc worthy. I don't think that it was. Some people certainly would agree, but Aidan O'Brien's counterpoint is that he needed the run after being on break after Epsom, and it should prime him, set him up for a prime effort in the Arc. It's up to the folks out there, the punters out there, whether they want to believe or not believe in Serpentine. There were a lot of doubters, even despite his impressive win at Epsom, that he can be a superstar or a horse that can really make some sort of a dent in the Arc de Triomphe. Meantime, when you look at the odds, as we look at the board again, Love, the impressive winner of the 1,000 Guineas and the Epsom Oaks, along with the Yorkshire Oaks at the arc distance of 1.5 miles at York, is the favorite over Enable, going for her third arc in 4 years. She missed winning the treble 3 arcs in a row just by a little bit to Vaultgeist, a horse she had outrun in the King George earlier that summer. And the reason I believe that Love is the slight favorite, number one, she's been at the top 2 since her Epsom Oaks run, and also she has had recency winning the Yorkshire Oaks. So I think that's where the slight uptick in her odds being the favorite over Enable, that's the primary reason. And I do believe, I think most of you would agree, that there will be a battle in the odds before the gates spring open as to who the favorite will be for the Arc between those two horses. Magical, a horse who's lost to Enable 5 times, 10th in the Arc in 2018, finished 5th when Enable ran 2nd in 2019, seems to be better than ever. Turned the tables on Gayeth after losing to him in the Juddmonte International at York. In the Irish Champion Stakes, both races at 1.25 miles, which begs the question, even as a very, very good 5-year-old, does she want the 1.5 miles? I think her better performances, or amongst her best, have been in the Breeders' Cup Turf of 2018 and the Yorkshire Oaks against Enable. So if you believe she's better than ever, then tackling the 1.5 miles in this spot should not be of any concern to her, and she should really, really be, or she should be a serious contender. That's a question that a lot of people will have to ask for themselves when it comes to Magical, who's 8-1 at this current time in the marketplace. And then you look at the others, such as Fancy Blue, trained by Joseph O'Brien, son of Aidan O'Brien, Sotsas, the French Derby winner from 2019, Stradivarius, and Tarnawa. And no matter which horse you think, if not the whole group of 4, it has value. There certainly is some there at 16 if those numbers stay the same. There's a lot of value when looking at 4 pretty good horses. Fancy Blue's probably, of the 4, and maybe even Sotsas, probably not as highly regarded, given Fancy Blue finishing 3rd in the Matron Stakes, a race in which Champs-Élysées was very impressive for trainer Johnny Murtaugh, who's now a trainer after being a riding legend. And so I think that those odds are going to be certainly probed by a lot of you in terms of who you pick out of there. I certainly think Stradivarius, his odds, he will get some definite, people are going to find value in him. Meantime, the next question that I'll be asking a series of Arc de Triomphe previews is, where will Aidan O'Brien go with the vast amount of riches that he has in terms of his horses, in terms of the Arc de Triomphe? We'll talk about that and cover that on the next episode of Arc de Triomphe Preview right here at the CS Racing Report.
There he is, the master of Rosewell House.
And they're into the stretch. And it's going to be a classic for Rosewell as PAT SMULLEN wins the ledger on Vinny Rowe for Dermot Weld. Vinny Rowe wins back-to-back ledgers for PAT SMULLEN and Dermot Weld. Vinny Rowe heading for his 3rd victory in the race, goes to the front for PAT SMULLEN. Vinny Rowe wins his 3rd ledger. Vinny Rowe, who has owned this race for the last 3 years. This is magnificent from Dermot Weld's performer, driving away to an unprecedented 4th ledger.
Winning races like this is
is what it's all about for the best as well.
What a beautiful ride by Pat SMULLEN.